Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation to be your keynote speaker this morning. It is indeed a privilege to be addressing you on such a cutting edge and new age topic such as digital credentialing. So, this morning, I want to take you through the current situation that we find ourselves with, all the changes taking place around us all the time. But I'm going to use a presentation as we start. And I wanted to share this with you. So the current changes that we are all familiar with, especially with rapid technological advances, the need to ensure that our learning systems keep up with this change. And that's also something that we are talking about all the time. And the last one is the complexity of understanding the relationship between education and work and the changes taking place. So, with all these changes around us, I wanted to focus this as part of the background that we are actually finding ourselves with at the moment. So, added to the changes that we have, COVID-19, the pandemic, has also forced South African education to take a long, hard look at itself. And the riots in July this year, a sad event, has also made us reflect on whether we are doing enough to prepare South Africans for livelihoods and whether we in the education sector are adequately supporting the transformation of our society. So we need to ask ourselves, are we really helping all South Africans live a better life since our democracy? And are we keeping abreast with the change around us? Are we able to shift our own positions to the one that is more future looking? So to put this into perspective, I thought, let me just provide you with the context of where we are. With the technological advancements, we have both challenges and we have the opportunities. So the challenges I've already outlined are equal access, shifting labor demand, and outdated and sometimes inefficient systems that we're finding ourselves in at the moment with regard to high unemployment and ensuring that there is sufficient opportunity for all. Technologically, we have opportunities that are presenting itself, and these are new prospects around platforms that will allow improved user engagement, interoperable systems for better data management, and the ability to recognize learning more digitally, making these achievements more portable. So I would venture that we could do more in our practice and not remain stuck in our traditions, and that we can agree on three things. The following are: lifelong learning is a necessary skills attitude approach to thriving in the modern world. The second is that I think we can all agree that employment prospects are only as good as your last job. But what if you've never had a job? And or your employer fails to give you a recommendation with enough detail. And the third one that we can all agree is that the gap between learning and work seems to be growing. And this is not closing anytime soon, especially with the pandemic. So I ask, if the education is the key to sustainably addressing unemployment, why are we not getting there? And I really apologize for laboring on this picture, but we are in a country in crisis and we all need to start working together. So let's just think about when we first launched the NQF. It was two objectives that I want to just highlight out of the five. The one was to create a single integrated national qualifications framework for learning achievements. And the second was to facilitate access to, mobility and progression within education, training, and career paths. And clearly, this is something that we are addressing again today, because we need to remind ourselves that the NQF was supposed to allow us, where it was designed to contribute to full personal development of each learner. But we don't really see that because we work in silos and in a fragmented system. But we can keep this at the back of our mind as we deliberate today. So in terms of the NQF and how it was designed, we also, other questions surface. Do our current systems allow learners access, easy access, into mainstream education and training? Do our learners who enter mainstream learning systems have the mobility, flexibility to progress and navigate career paths with ease, or even make informed choices? And are our qualifications, certificates, and awards transparent enough to indicate the full personal development of our learners? So I've just unpacked the objectives of the NQF with some things, items that we need to think about clearly as I share my perspectives on digital credentialing as we discussed today. So with the new nomenclature that we have with the technological era that we are in, we have terminology such as credential, digitization, interoperable, micro-interoperable, and the list continues. So with rapidly changing digital society, we have not considered how this can actually change the way we teach and learn today and the opportunities that it presents for learning pathways for learners. And at the same time, macro and micro credentials are gaining increasing momentum around the globe. So there's a growing interest around micro credentials and short learning experiences, especially since the outbreak of COVID-19. And governments are looking to get people back into work, probably with reskilling, upskilling, and looking for new opportunities and areas of growth. So I've given you the background as to why we should be considering what my perspectives are on my macro and micro credentials today. I want to, in my presentation, also just have a very close focus on what credentialing means, both macro and micro, what the benefits and challenges are, the possibilities, and then the recommendations. So with regard to the definition of macro and micro credentials, I have to say that there is no common definition that has been agreed. Brown et al. From the Dublin City University, in a recent study, 2021, claimed that there is no globally accepted definition and that the term indicates smaller units of study, which are usually shorter than traditional forms of accredited learning and courses, leading to conventional qualifications. And in 2020, Shapiro also said that there is a lack of a shared definition, which is currently perceived as the most substantial barrier to further development. However, as we currently speak, there is a webinar that is conducted by a team of experts who are collaborating on a universal definition of micro-credentials, and that will soon be released by a UNESCO commissioned report. So this area of work, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, is extremely current. At the same time, we need to understand that education is not the only sector that has a monopoly on credentialing. It's also happening out there in the labor market with certifications and licenses and badges. And what is most important is the value of these credentials in the labor market, how people perceive the value of being able to get jobs, access to jobs, increase their portfolios of their qualifications and experiences. So credentials and micro-credentials therefore provide opportunities for lifelong learning pathways with continuous development of skills and reskills. Although we talk about credentials, we are really talking about knowledge and skills leading to competencies, and these are assessed and evidence is provided. So smaller competency-based models are not always stackable into full qualifications. In addition to that, the number of credits linked to micro-credentials also differ in various countries. But these are clear benefits. And it is this ability to collect multiple credentials from primary institutions, add on to licenses and badges and online courses that create a holistic picture of personal competencies which can be shared with potential employers. The problem is that currently we communicate only a fraction of these educational experiences that happens at our institutions. And for employers, this is what is most valuable, is the skills together with experience, and holistically, what is the learner bringing or the potential employee bringing to the workplace. So there is an expectation now on higher education to find ways to credential better and to provide more information that is accessible using the transformative technology that we now have available. The continuous professional development pathways need to be linked to our discussions today and how we can bring that to the center as we discuss. A good example of a holistic picture of an individual is LinkedIn, where individuals add their competencies, which are then endorsed by their networks who can vouch for these competencies. But this is not formal recognition in any way. Whereas where we want to be is to get formal recognition of this kind of flexible and agile learning. So institutions also need to find ways to transfer this information, not just to and for students and employers, but also amongst themselves. This transparency between the kind of programs that are offered, the credits that are credit-bearing courses that are taken up, and how we can get the recognition for those skills and programs with specific outcomes. So credentials do matter in a knowledge economy as the key indicator of critical life outcomes. And the first step is modernizing the credential infrastructure for a digital world. So even before COVID, we had a huge demand for lifelong learning pathways, and an alternative form of online higher education was already, before COVID, rapidly increasing. There's so much available on the internet. So there is a real shift, and we need to talk about that shift. By the end of 2020, there were more than 180 million learners enrolled in over 16,000 massive open online courses throughout the world, with around 1,200 micro-credentials. So this indicates that it is a very popular form of learning. These statistics do not even include China and India. They have their own digital platforms. So it certainly provides for more opportunities for blended learning, open learning, distance learning, lifelong learning, opening up career paths that seem to be the solution to address high unemployment in current times while keeping abreast with labor demands. This could be the flexibility and agility that South Africa requires as a new learning landscape. However, I must mention that there are skeptics, and they make generalizations and caution against being distracted with micro-credentials or to unbundle university qualifications, giving into market forces. These kind of skeptics are Ralston 2021, Vachanan et al. In 2020. And again, these generalizations question the role of the university. In my perspective, there are global concerns which need to be ironed out, and I want to just share with you some of the challenges. The first one is, can these credentials be compared? Researchers are grappling with a common language and the transparency between these credentials that are being offered in the marketplace. How can credentials that are available be verified? And can we actually be assured of their quality? Is there significant large-scale collaboration between providers offering these qualifications or short programs as credentials and micro-credentials? And are these well aligned with employer needs? These are just some of the challenges that we can discuss today, but We also have a more unique South African challenge, and that is at present, the qualifications framework, short courses, the rules of the NQF are that short courses can only be accredited as a part qualification, constituted by credits within a full qualification. So there is no recognition, formal recognition, for it being a quality assured program if it is a short course. Then added to that, another South African unique challenge is our Organized Framework of Occupations, the OFO. And LA 2021 indicate that these occupational definitions and their associated practices required standardization. But some employers really make significant update to these definitions, and many find it is not sufficiently updated to accommodate emerging occupations. So this creates a further challenge for qualification development, which then must be developed against occupations and then registered on the OFL. LA also highlights how this complicates reporting, since employers are required to report against the OFO rather than in terms of how jobs appear in the real world. A further challenge that I have identified is how different is this from skills development qualifications such as learnerships and apprenticeships and work-based learning programs that have been developed by CETAs. These have been always modular in structure, intended to be stackable, which lead to full qualifications. They have specific outcomes which were made explicit and so on. But these programs did not gain the credibility it was intended to have in the system. Universities certainly did not see value in using these as entrance requirements. So there are disparate thoughts around credentials and micro-credentials that I've outlined to you, while at the same time, there are all these massive online programs that have superseded our traditional thinking and practices of learning, which we cannot ignore. If we are to begin on the path of discussing, agreeing, and eventually adopting this new trajectory, what will it take? Decision makers at all levels will require quality data around job opportunities, skill and knowledge demands, and which credentials and pathways to pursue. Providing decision makers at all levels with frameworks to describe the attributes of a quality credential is one that requires a partnership process across all stakeholders in the post-school system. If we would require transparency around learning outcomes, there is much work to be done, but a worthwhile opportunity to begin to reshape our education and training system. So what I'm actually presenting to you now is a synopsis of the recognition of knowledge, skills, and competencies that are described within a learning program, and through assessment that are linked to curriculum and learning outcomes, we achieve a certificate and may also lead a designation with depending on the professional qualifications that are being undertaken. And we can add to that a credential that can be recognized digitally, and also add on micro credentials to that. And we see how this holistic system can enable blended learning using common taxonomies. So a great opportunity for this is the PSET Cloud platform. A platform generally connects people through technology, making an ecosystem that allows value to be created and exchanged. And the significant thing is that both of these sites, as well as all other platforms, have in common is that they bring people and organizations together where they can interact. So the PSET Cloud program is a 5-year initiative funded by the MERCETA and is managed by Jet Education Services. It's in its 3rd year now. Very complex project flow diagram that I put up. But if you look at it in cycles, the first cycle where the 2 red dots are is actually all the research that was done to inform the development of the PZ Cloud platform. In its third year now, so we've gone through a cycle of business case development, stakeholder engagement, etc. And we now, where the two little cycles at the bottom of the slide is where we are developing a minimal viable product. The platform is being developed to really allow citizens, that is learners and employers and government departments, to make decisions about education and training so that the skills and supply demands and supply are met in our country. So in the era of digitalization, the PZ Cloud offers automated synergies between work and learning, and allows for data privacy through blockchain technology and encrypted and encoded data that cannot be changed once it's awarded. So it would all sit on this platform where learners can actually have their own digital ID with a holistic process of all the qualifications, credentials that they've earned, and own their own data. These are just possibilities that are being investigated as we are developing the MVP. So in conclusion then, if we are to consider an agile credentialing in South Africa, we are really at a crossroad and have the opportunity to venture into the space. And the possibilities to integrate credential transparency into the education workforce and workforce development strategies do exist. The micro-credentialing movement globally also provides opportunities for governments and higher education to partner with industry to look at new digital learning modules beyond the pandemic. And there is emerging evidence, as I've already shown you, of how popular online learning has become. And however, we must acknowledge that more research is needed and that we need to understand different perspectives. And I'm going to just close by saying that we need to ensure that all stakeholders, government, universities of technology, generally provisioning, the QCTO, quality assurance bodies such as QCTO, CHE, need to all come together, collaborate, and find a way of looking at how we can develop a strategy around micro-credentialing. So while several countries are gaining traction on it, we could use lessons learned from Canada, Australia, the Netherlands on how our credentialing strategy can work for us. But I want to end by just sharing a really good example of e-learning. And this comes from the Virtual Linguistics Campus, which is one of the world's largest e-learning platform for linguistics and language. And it currently hosts about 25 full qualifications courses on linguistics, education, robotics. But here's the punchline. All these courses are free. They're online, they're open, they're certified, they're quality assured, and there are no fees. As I said, they are free. So I therefore ask you, ladies and gentlemen, can we afford to ignore these opportunities and lag behind? Or do we consider digital credentials and flexibility as it opens up for agile learning pathways for our citizens? So I look forward to the presentations by the speakers that will follow and then the deliberations that will come thereafter. And I want to thank you all again for the opportunity that was provided to me to share my perspectives this morning. Thank you.